In today's beading lesson, I have some simple ideas for making jewelry for guys. So we all have guys in our lives, and bracelets are getting really popular for men. They're really easy to make, and leather makes it super simple too. So here are some ideas. You can of course start out with a blank leather cuff, and these are pre-made and have a snap closure. And a standard size for men is usually between 8 to 9 inches. So if you're making a gift, you can keep that in mind. You can also create your own cuff with special flat findings that make it really easy to put the bracelets on and off by yourself, and keep it really nice and flat on the wrist too. Now if you want to bring some texture into the jewelry, then you can use different types of braid. And here are 3 different styles. This one is round braided bolo. So the bolo is made with round cord, and it has a lot more texture than, for example, this one. This is regular braided bolo, so it's made with flat cord. You can see it's a lot smoother. This is a special type of clasp too that you can use to make multi-strand designs like this one. You can also use regular braid, and this one I embellished with some beads, but again, it just adds some more texture to use these braided styles with your jewelry. So when you're ready to add a clasp to basic leather, this is a flat strap, and I really love this distressed look too. This is a natural dye, so it has a little bit of variegation in the leather, and it's really nice and soft. But what you do is, I like to lay it against my ruler or something to measure, and I just lay the clasp on top. It's not going to get it exactly perfect, but this is going to give you a pretty good idea of the length. So this one is a little bit long here at over 10 inches. So I'm just going to cut it back so that I have closer to 9 inches. So I'll lay my clasp here and then start my cut. And you want to use some really good quality scissors for cutting through leather, because it's pretty thick. This is tough stuff. It's meant to last. Now what I'll do is just trim off the corners so that the insertion of the leather into the clasp is a little bit easier. So give it a trim on both sides. And then you can use 2-part epoxy or other kind of industrial strength glue. And for this piece, I'm going to use some quick drying and just run a line of glue inside. And this keeps your mess inside the clasp. So you can see when it starts to bead, just press it into place there. And it's always a good idea to cover your work surface with something. I'm using a craft mat. And just press this into place. You want to be sure to shop for clasps that fit your strap exactly. Now, if you wanted to embellish this, I like it. I think it's beautiful the way it is, but you could also do stamping onto it. You can use metal stamps to spell words or create textures. You can rivet onto it. There are all kinds of ways that you can customize these. And then you just glue the other end in. And then the way that this clasp fastens is just through the top like that. It's a T-bar clasp. Now, for a piece with round bolo like this, again, it helps to have the really sharp shear, because you can see the braid is really staying together here, even though I've already cut it. And then again, I'm just going to take and measure. And this time, my cord ends have a clasp attached. So in this case, that's a lot bigger to measure here. So I'm just going to go ahead and place this inside, and then draw it out to 9 inches, but I have to account for the clasps, which is about 1/2 inch. So this time I'm going to go for 9.5. And then again with my glue, just press this in, and then press my braid. Now, see how it's all holding together? If for some reason this wasn't, then I can bind this with some thread before I stick it in to the clasp. And again, I'm just going to set this aside to dry, but this gives you a really nice finished look. This looks like a professional piece of jewelry that you just made yourself. Now, one more tip is that you can also do multiple strands. So find a clasp that is big enough to fit several cords inside, and then glue these into place. And I like the idea of just layering them together. You can mix colors, you can add different types of braid. Here I have 2 large bolo cords, and then I'm just going to layer a smaller one on top. Again, if you wanted to bind those with some thread, you sure could do that, but I'm just going to glue these in, and then I will glue them into the other side to make sure that these are all the even length. Once that side is glued, it's easier to hold it in place. And you could even come here and cut this with a sharp razor blade or something straight. I'm just going to use my sharp scissor here to trim that little end. And then rather than bend the leather while it's drying, I'll just go ahead and add my glue to this end and then glue my ends into place.